All right, this book was a long read, great read. It kind of reminded me of Psychology of Unconscious by Carl Jung, Gustav Jung, although way better, I would say, in the way Carl put it in his that book, because Carl Jung pretty much kind of followed Freudian line of thinking where everything was related to essentially, you know, symbolism. So anyway, the book is about really, let me go to the book and then kind of compare, I guess, Carl Jung's book and this one. What really Joseph Campbell is talking about when he talks about the hero with thousand faces is all these tales and religious symbols and stories. All that is about essentially a human, everybody going through the similar journey or having the same difficulties, same problems, and self awareness, but expressed in a different way. Kind of how that's how I would sum it. Like what Jesus did, or what Buddha did, or what Krishna did, or what Allah did, or you go to anything, or you go to like the Native American culture, Native American way of believing things, stories, spirits stories, and them believing certain animals or certain you know some kind of relationship to them or their spirit beings, something like that. Or go to the New Zealand. So he goes into several, like how the old Egyptian tales were. So it's very detailed in the sense that that's why the book is long, because he goes into different stories and different journeys of a hero or different struggles of a hero, which is basically about a human being. Eventually the basic conclusion it comes to so anyway, in that sense, like many times one of the struggles is like, hey, a man wants to essentially really wants mommy as his partner, right? Some of those things that go into the Freudian kind of sense, everything is phallic or everything is sexual erotic kind of eroticism, which is one of the things I don't like. I don't agree or don't even think that's the thing. But at the same time, about people wanting to marry or be in relationship with their parents, sort of I guess is true, because many times it's proven that many times a man or a woman looks for their corresponding father or mother in their partner, or sort of similar aspects, right? I guess in that sense, I guess you could say, okay, yeah, that's kind of wanting to marry the mother or whatever. That sounds really bad, but kind of makes sense in that terms, if you look at it that way. So in that sense, when he talks about those things, and even when Carl Jung kind of talks about those things, there is element of truth to it. But where I believe, Carl Jung was in that book anyway, because the other book I read, Modern Man in Search of Soul, Carl Jung completely turns around and kind of goes into more spiritual, into more what essentially Joseph Campbell ends his book with. So he goes into various things like these stories about people going into a fish, and there's different stories, right? Set a man fighting a monster and eventually getting to a point where he discovers peace or some kind of happiness, whatever. So it's more he what Campbell compares that with is about the struggle, going to the struggle to eventually realize that inner peace, to discovery within oneself, essentially everything that needs to be done. But that's not like he doesn't go very short, like he goes different. Obviously, he's going into different cultures, stories, different countries, and how strangely almost everything is sort of same. except how it's described and created is different. And here, that's where the whole thing is, right? In the end, that's where it comes up with like, we're all the same. One is, it's the same universe or same being out there. And what he goes into also is how the religions kind of more divide people and kind of act as if that's unique. It's not. Eventually, everybody's telling the same truth. Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or Allah or whoever. In your various ways, maybe some are not as, some aspects are not good, obviously. But basically, that's the whole theme, right? Like when you see all these stories, at one point, seems like it doesn't matter how vast, at least separated the people were in the old ancient times, they still had similar stories. So, what does that tell us? And that's more what his whole book is about. When he talks about the hero with thousand faces, that's what it is. Race, religion doesn't matter. The hero is the same. The journey, the difficulties, the problems, the realizations, it eventually seems like kind of is similar. How they go about doing things, how they describe things, the journey, the difficulties, the realizations might be different, but ultimately the end point is that there is universal truth or universal togetherness in those stories. So all this separation obviously is more, individual created or community created to differentiate from each other. But in the end, we're all the same, or we're essentially seeking the same thing. Our journeys are kind of same, goes in a different path, maybe, but ultimately what we're seeking is the same. Anyway, in that sense, great book, great read, long read, obviously. It's not a short book, it's a long book. There's a lot of stories, a lot of information, a lot of fables, a lot of quotations from different books. So that's why it takes a long time, because it, puts those in the bottom. So of the Bible or the Gita or anything, right? And the biggest thing, one of the biggest things I got, Joseph like clearly explains the word Om is not Om, it's Om, A-U-M, which is similar to Amen, Ameen in the Muslim, and Amen, in the Bible. He doesn't go there, but that's what it is. Many people use Om. No, in Sanskrit there's no close equivalent. It's supposed to be Om, which is same as Amen, which is same as Ameen, right? So he doesn't go into all three aspects, but he goes into and explains what A-U-M mean, each word mean, actually. So it's a deeper word. It's a word of creation, essentially. Anyway, that's a sidebar, but that was one of the things that he was the one who kind of really explained properly. I'm going into detail why it's Om in Sanskrit versus actually it's supposed to be Om, because in Sanskrit there wasn't clear equivalent there. So anyway, that's one tidbit. But great read. I would say highly, highly recommend reading this book. I don't know if there's an Audible. Maybe I need to see if there's an Audible and maybe listen to it. But if it's an Audible, then listen to it. If not.